Word and deed, not either or. Word and deed together. Living our faith, we need to be both word and deed, not one or the other. Faith isn't just words and statements of our values and beliefs. It's not just doing things because that is what is expected or what culture prescribes. Faith is a meaningful way of being, so congruity of what is said and what is done is key, calling us to align our actions with our spoken words because it matters. Where I grew up in Tonga, you just rock up to visit. No prior arrangements. Mind you, there were no emails, no texts, and no freely available phones then. But a minister went to visit this family and he knocked on the door. A couple of minutes, the 7-year-old opens the door. The minister said to the young lad, "Is Dad home?" And the boy replied, "Dad said to tell you he's gone to the plantation." The minister just happened to see someone's toes behind the door, you know, the space under the door and the floor. The minister said to the young boy, "Thank you." And as he turned to leave, he said to the young lad, "Can you tell your dad to take his feet with him next time he goes to the plantation?" St. Francis of Assisi said, I quote, "Preach the gospel at all times, if necessary, use words." We live out the gospel in both word and deed. Congruity and the alignment is important. The reading we hear this morning of the sisters Martha and Mary demonstrate discipleship and devotion to Jesus. Martha's hospitality and calling Jesus Lord, and Mary's interest in his teaching. Martha really immersed herself in her socially mandated tasks, traditionally female roles attend to hospitality. Mary sits at the Lord's feet and receives his teaching. Traditionally, it was a male's role. Apparently, males were the ones allowed to learn at the time. But this offers a liberating understanding of women's participation in Christian discipleship, transgressing cultural expectations of the day. Jesus approves, implying that all dimensions of his ministry is for all people, women and men alike. And we need to be both doers and listeners. Well, listening and learning is also doing. So we are all church Marthas and Marys at respective times, sometimes together. We are welcoming, hospitable, laser-focused on what needs to be done to make a guest feel welcomed and at home, aren't we? And we listen attentively to each other, quietly learning from one another. We hope. That's what we're doing. And the reading highlights following Jesus, following his words and his ways. It does not assert that contemplative life is superior to active service. Mary's activity and doing of learning demands no denigration at all of Martha's, and vice versa. Word and deed are not in opposition. They are not in competition. We cannot polarize and divide the two sisters to an either-or based on their personalities as if they represent separate paradigms. The reading does not claim that one's a failure, the other a success. It does not invalidate hard work. It's not even about gender. The reading is simply about being a disciple of Jesus. So we need both Martha's diligent service and Mary's willingness to learn to get the balance in our attitude, our own outlook to living life fully and meaningfully. We listen to Jesus' words and we work very hard at how our way of being communicates those words and Jesus' ways for the here and now. We focus on our purpose because that makes a difference. Losing focus, Martha becomes distracted, frustrated, and even complained about the very thing that she actually offered to do. She offered hospitality. Did she become more attached to her role of host and the master of the household than to the guest she's just welcomed? She showed up and said, "Lord, don't you care? Don't you care that my sister has left me to do the serving?" In her complaining, she breaches her hospitality. Instead of addressing her sister Mary, she puts her guest on the spot. Jesus seized the moment for a teaching opportunity to address Martha's distraction and frustration. Certainly, Jesus was not addressing Martha's desire to offer hospitality through service. Jesus speaks to Martha as a dear friend who has worked herself into a state of anxious distraction. Maybe with a smile, saying, "Oh, Martha, dear Martha, you're distracted by many things." Not speaking to the busy Martha, he's speaking to the worried and distracted Martha. Imagine Jesus saying, "Dear Martha, it's not your work that makes you tired. It's what you think. It's your mental attitude that does. What you think distracts you from your practice, from your purpose, from your focus of hospitality." The same teaching Jesus offers us, disciples of today. We are very often, we are what we think. And the narrow bridge between talking, words, and doing, only those who have courage can pass. Have we the courage to align and pass that bridge? Martha and Mary are both hosts to Jesus, but they are also meant to be his guests, because there is the reciprocity of giving and receiving in our life of faith. The heart of discipleship is that we do not first and foremost serve Jesus. Jesus has come to serve. The guest is our host. The guest becomes the host and not only offers teachings of wisdom to the hospitable sisters who were devoted to receiving the Lord in their home, but maybe when dinner was served in the breaking of the bread, realized that Jesus was really their hospitable, humble host that we will remember and celebrate later. Our call to discipleship is a call to freedom of choices, not forced into anxiety and maybe troubled and frustrated about many things. Our host, Jesus, teaches us, Marthas and Marys of the church, to discern, to set priorities carefully, to seek the good portion, whatever that might be in the situation in which we find ourselves. We discern and determine which is needed in the immediate situation. We need both, word and deed. It's not either or. Amen.